All right, it's gonna be a little bit dark here, but I mean it's all good. We're gonna work with what we got. Uh, I want to make this topic on basically, we're gonna spring into the new year, and see, here's the thing: a lot of people now they get a little bit too spiritual, and they say they don't celebrate certain seasons and whatnot. See, one of the seasons you can't get away from, I've mentioned this in videos, is basically the organic seasons. Like I'm talking about summer, spring, fall, and winter. You know, your body adapts and acclimates to those seasons, regardless. And when you have these man-made ones, like, you know, let's say Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year. I mean, there's a lot of energy and power, regardless, in those seasons, because a lot of people celebrate them. Just like you may say, I don't believe in Jesus, but there's a lot of power behind that egregore or golem because of so much energy that's given out by people to that deity. Okay, so here's the thing: one of the things that I've noticed works so well is planning ahead, because when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I look at this like we're in a mental realm, right? And you know how they say you're always planting seeds and whatnot. And shout out Robert V, by the way, from Milky Way Soul Tribe. He brought up this question, and it's kind of like why I'm even making this video, but it's something that, you know, I felt like structuring and putting together to, you know, put it out in a video form. But when you have a garden, for example, you plan when you're in the winter time, okay? Because in the winter time, you start to figure out, you know, you gather your seeds, you start to plan out where you're going to plant things. And of course, very important is crop rotation, right? Crop rotation, you don't want to plant the same plant you planted it in the same spot last year, because certain nematodes start to, you know, grow out of there, and it's not good for the health of your plant. So crop rotation is very important. So things like, you know, companion planting is very beneficial too. What do you plant with, or what do you not plant together with certain things, right? So it's the same thing with ideas. It's the same thing with like certain projects that we may have. We may start to combine and put certain things together. Certain things don't go well with others. So you start to basically do an audit and take accountability. This is basically being in God mode, right? And it's not done religiously. You know what I'm saying? Why it's important to even plan ahead, like going into New Year. And I'm going to even talk about what the man-made holiday, the New Year, because actually New Year is supposed to be actually in the spring. And, you know, we're going to bring the New Year that we're in now, all right, into the spring. That's why they say spring into New Year. I mean, when you spring into New Year, it's because you're in the spring, and the New Year starts, you know, after the spring equinox. That's where your real New Year is, right? But what do? You're planning ahead how your garden's going to look. So your mind is the garden. Your mind is your body. You have different brains, different compartments, different energy centers, right? You also have different characters. So these are your tools. What characters would you use at certain times? What energies would you use at certain times? But look, I'll put it like this. You're a creature of habit. In order for you to become something different, you would have to do it repeatedly to convince yourself, right? Because your body is basically the instrument of the mind. And when you look at your environment, that's your spiritual space. And in this realm, you're the one directing traffic here, right? But from the observer standpoint, you know, not from the ego standpoint. So when we have, let's say, we're going to plan on, you know, like they say, well, you know, what shoes do you want to fill? You're basically developing your suit. You're developing your shoes. But these are going to be big shoes to fill, a big suit to fill in. But in order for you to fit into that, you got to think big, right? So in other words, let's say if you're a scrawny motherfucker and you want to get bigger, what do? You have to put in the work. You have to go to the gym, work out, and eventually you'll be able to wear bigger clothes, right? When you mature, you'll be able to fit into bigger shoes. You get what I'm saying? And the whole thing is that it also requires for you to be eating a proper diet in order for you to be conducive to that lifestyle. And I'm just putting this as an example because this could bleed into anything that you want to do. It doesn't matter. You want to be a better partner. You want to be a better parent. You want to be a better business partner. You want to be just a better person overall. Use that example for everything in general. So let's put it like this. In order for you to be big, you got to think big, right? So you're putting in the work, the information you're consuming, right, is the same as the fitness industry when you're eating certain foods to try to build your body a certain way. So you already, and when you think about whatever you want to bring into this existence, it already exists the moment you think about it. You get what I'm saying? It already happened right now because you thought about it. And the whole thing is that in order for it to actually come into fruition, you have to put in the work to some extent. And the way that we do it is because, you know, faith without works is dead. But it's not to say, you know, you put in the work and then you don't truly believe in what you're doing. But the whole thing is you're convincing yourself of it. That's the purpose of the repetitious part. Because we're creatures of habit. In order for you to change a habit, it takes 20 to 50 days for you to change a habit. So why is this important? So let's say, for example, New Year's in January, right? We can use these man-made seasons to our advantage because there's a lot of power in those man-made constructed holidays, because so many people celebrate it. So many people go crazy on those holidays, put a lot of different emotions on those holidays, family togetherness and whatnot. But you got Halloween, and don't forget, you know, winter overall is a very spiritual season. Summertime is more physical. You know what I'm saying? So when you got October, right? This is where it starts to get cooler, but there's a very spiritual month, All Hallows Eve. All right? So you now start putting your spirituality into practice here, because this is what you are. You get what I'm saying? And we can look at this from a non-dual perspective as well. But it's just, in order for me to explain it, of course, we have to word things a certain way. But you got now, that's where you start to work on October. November, now you got Thanksgiving. This is gratitude. And in that space, you're thankful for, you know, the steps you've taken. And now you got December. December is the birth of Christ. Okay? Now, the birth of Christ is very significant in December because Jesus had 12 disciples. And along this path, from October to December, for you to spring into the new year of January, you have to have discipline. And Jesus had disciples, 12 disciples. So you got to get your virtues and principles in order. And when you come in through this whole entire period, what's required of you, because you can have all the motivation in the world and whatnot, but if there's no discipline behind it, and it ain't shit. You get what I'm saying? So you got to be disciplined. And the whole purpose of the discipline is you have faith in yourself. You get what I'm saying? That you already are what you want, what you think about. Okay? Now, suppose it, okay, you didn't start, because today's January 1st. Happy New Year. But you could go from January now into March the same exact way, right? Because if you look at January, that's the two-headed Greek god Janus, right? So don't forget, this is why October, November, December, you spring into New Year, and it's coming into basically duality, because you got the two faces, right? But check this out. In January, it's very powerful if now you do it your own way, in the way it's supposed to be. Okay, this is you using your imagination and creativity, because from January we consider this a very spiritual month. You're in the heart of winter. Okay, and I told you season of winter is very spiritual. So January, you're in the heart of winter. It's the same equivalent to me saying October, which is All Hallows Eve. So consider October. And October is 10. The month is October is 10, which October actually means 8, right? Octavio or ocho. Then 9 is nueve. That's, you know, November, but November is the 11th month. So you see how it's kind of like not even going correlated to the actual name of the actual month. So since it doesn't even coordinate that way, then you make your own coordinations. But January, because if you look at October, it's month 10. But you already know that the totality of 1 and 0 is 1. So when you got January, that's really 1, and it's the same as October. Very spiritual months, right? So now you got February. So February is love, right? You got the whole, Valentine's Day. But that's equivalent to Thanksgiving. Gratitude and love fall pretty close to each other in the same line, right? So now that's February, all right? And check this out. February is the second month, right? So you got November is the 11th month. The totality of that number is 2. Do you see how they're both equated? And then now you got March. March is the 3rd month. That's equivalent to December. December is 12. 1 and 2 is 3. You just created a 33 there. So that's the birth and death of Christ. You get what I'm saying? So now when you go into March, you're springing into the new year because that's the spring equinox. October, you put your plants out. So you planned and planted your seeds, went along the way and did what you had to do. Crop rotated, you planned all your stuff. It's the same way with the mind. You get what I'm saying? What are you planning to do in this moment? Okay? In this now moment, January. Today is 1/1. So start now. Now you're going to prepare. Okay? Since we didn't do it in October. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But this, I haven't heard anybody talk about it like this. Okay? But if we started now in January, okay? Consider this your very spiritual month. Put your works into practice now. February comes, you're grateful because you've made it from January to February. And then March, you bring that creation into existence. The reason I say birth, right? Think about this. We're creators, right? Or co-creators, however you want to label it. It doesn't really matter. But when you have a thought, it already exists. But let's say if you say, I want to have a baby. I mean, it already exists. But in order for it to come into existence, you have to co-create it with a female, with your partner. And that's putting the work into practice because you planned your baby. That's why we're all just ideas. You were just once an idea. So now you had, you know, the big bang with your partner and you birthed Christ. Okay, because we're all Christ. We're all Christ. And this is how you birth your creations into existence. It takes masculine and feminine, electromagnetism, positive and negative. You use the chemistry to your advantage, but you're not in or the chemistry. You're just using the chemistry. You get what I'm saying? So whatever you think about, it happens. But in order for it to cut, like, see, here's the thing. You've heard me say that the universe has a funny way of testing you, right? Where if, let's say, if you want to be a millionaire, all of a sudden you'll be faced with millionaire obstacles. Like you may get a big ass bill, some crazy shit may happen, but it's to test you to see how it is. A lot of people say that, but it sounds cliche. And I don't even think sometimes they even know why they say it. They just say it because I think maybe it sounds good. But in actuality, you have to think of it like this. If you're not in your neutral space, you're polarizing to something. Let's say if you want to be really, really good, the really, really bad has to come with it. The really, really bad has to come with it. But because in order for really, really good to exist, really, really bad has to exist. Right? So that's why I said, if you're planning something, damn well know that the opposite of what you don't want, it's coming along with it. And those are your tests. Your job is to endure. Okay? So, you know, when you look at man is designed to endure. We're very resilient. But when we engage in shit that doesn't matter, then we're limiting ourselves to humanity. And there's why I said you have to step out that bubble. I'm talking about simple shit like even getting cut off in traffic. Some mundane dumb shit where your family members may get into a fight. You don't get involved. You let the shit be. It's human shit. You got to walk like you're walking in the shoes of God. You know what I'm saying? And not in a blasphemous way, but really realizing that this is where you are. You're at the seat of God. You're at the kingdom of heaven because you are that kingdom of heaven. And you could bring that kingdom to the planet, right? Because when you change, then the world tends to whole thing changes around you because you're observing the reptilian in real time outside of yourself, right? So the moment you change, things outside of you start to change and mold to your will. This is kind of like a worldwide shadow work. All the drama and all the shit that's happening in the world, wars and shit, if you're paying attention to that, and it's like there's a difference between paying attention to it and just being aware that it's there. But it has to be there. Do you see the whole thing is that people want to take a stance and fight against evil, but in actuality, when you fight against evil, you're creating that resistance makes stronger. You're making it stronger. The stronger the hero, the stronger the villain. The stronger the villain, the stronger the hero. If you want to diminish its power, is be aware that it's there, but don't put any mind to it. Because when you pay attention, you're giving your energy there, And the way you pay with interest is when you actually sit down and polarize to a side and decide to now participate in a debate about it. And now you're paying with interest, because now you took the position of polarization and you are now associating with that side, when in actuality you're associating with something that's going even lower than the human. Aside from you not even being that label, you're not even human. So look how many layers down you're going by just participating in some mundane dumb shit. So if you want to do something for yourself here in this reality, as far as becoming something big, right? You could do that. But that's where you decide to engage in. And when the obstacles come, how do you maintain your frame? How do you stay on the right track, right? These are your virtues and principles, your discipline. You're disciplined and you put your energy where it needs to go. Man, that person's on the right track, right? Are you getting mentally trained? Do you hear this MK Ultra? You hear all these mind control shit? You hear even the word predictive programming. I hear a lot of that now ever since I watched the movie Leave the World Behind. And even a lot of people breaking that down are breaking it down from a human perspective. A bunch of dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? When in actuality, when you're looking at it from any space, like even Leave the World Behind, breaking that movie down, that movie, you know what? I'm gonna leave that movie for another time. But the word predictive programming, I want to leave this here in this video. When you have predictive programming, you think that things are happening like they're happening to you in that way. You're doing it to yourself. You see, whatever the they outside of you is your ego. That's the mirror reflection of yourself. It could be the government, it could be the medical industry, whatever it may be. It's your ego in action. And the whole thing is that when your ego wants to thrive and survive, the way you see, the ego is not stronger than what you really are, right? So the only way that it can beat you is by making you beat yourself. So it will propose to you through movies, through the media, through even YouTube. You got fucking YouTube speakers who are basically agents, and they don't know they're agents. That's the whole thing. You get what I'm saying? They don't know they're agents, but that's because they're not aware that they're engaging in the same ego that they're observing outside of themselves. Okay, so they're gonna show you a reality. Okay, kind of like, let me give you an example. I made a video on this, doomsday preppers, right? They're gonna show you all this doomsday apocalypse media, and then you get emotionally involved with it, and you believe it to so much extent that you go and become doomsday preppers. You think that you're not more than likely to experience the doomsday apocalypse with the fact that you put out a signal to whatever you want to call God, the universe, life, whatever it is that you are prepping for a doomsday apocalypse. Wars. You know why they say love is the answer? Right? Because when you look at love is basically neutral. The world is neutral. Money is neutral. Everything's neutral. But it's still backed up by the frequency of love, because love is a building frequency. It's not the woo-woo hearts and pink and white and all that bullshit you see in the movies. It's just like when I speak about the masculine energy over the feminine energy. A lot of people look at this and associate it with gender. It's not even about that. Like, some women get offended listening to like and you'll see this through certain modern day debate things, where they'll start to talk about, oh, the man over the woman, and they start to diminish the actual female by her actions when it goes beyond gender. And in actuality, that comes from a weakness of the expression of the masculine energy taking over or order over the feminine energy of the planet. Because the feminine energy of the planet is basically, and in its entirety, it's humanity. La humanidad. You're a citizen of your state, right? But what is your mental state? You'll see your mental state determines where you're planted at the moment. I was once in New York. I found myself here to some extent. You know what's crazy? I never would have thought I landed here, but I did. And you could see the differences from one state to another, but because you mentally changed, you even ended up moving and go somewhere else. But if you decide to one day leave the cities, okay, and go into, like, let's say a more spiritual or more high vibrational city, you're going to be the pollution only because you're just going there thinking that the environment's going to change you, when in actuality, you have to change yourself first. You change yourself first. All right, because if you go with the mentality where I'm gonna move into country or the northern, let's say in the I'm gonna move into the country or go out in nature. If you haven't changed yourself, you're a pollution to nature. Because I already said the world molds and shapes to you, so you would have to truly change yourself. It is really a worldwide shadow work. It really is. And the whole thing is that before you became aware and you got programmed in this bitch, okay, a lot of the things that you hid in the closet were due to fear or insecurities that were passed down by your parents, which are basically still you. You know that? You can't even point your finger at your parents. That's why to basically spiritually ascend, you have to truly forgive your parents. And I went through a lot of bullshit in my life. But in actuality, those are there for a purpose. Because at the moment I'm at now, it's kind of like my future self designed that outcome for me when I was younger, for me to become the man I am now. Everything's happening multidimensionally. Just like what I know my future self is projecting, and I'm channeling my future self right now. I may even be channeling my past self. And you know what's funny though? I make videos. And sometimes I say I watch my older videos for specific purposes. But it's because sometimes when I watch my older videos, I am 100% sure that my future self, I was channeling myself in the future for me to say what I was saying in those past videos. And that's why I say these videos are journals for me. And that's the significance of it, because if I'm making journals for myself, I can go back. See, spiritual people tell you this: journal and write your dreams down. I mean, merrily, life is but a dream. This is just a dream, right? You were going to live the American dream. It was just a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. You see all that shit? Listen to it even in rap songs. But everything in general, like what you're doing is this is your life, right? But you are the author. You are the accountant, so you take audits of your life. You are the conductor of this train, and you are the director, and you're the star of this movie. But you know what the fucking crazy thing is though? When you look at things outside of you, when you see things and you say, I see myself doing that, you see yourself doing that, but it's no different than you're just watching a movie. Because when you watch a movie, you get so attached and closely related to a character there, right? But you start to put that character on a pedestal, and you don't. I'll give you another example, and this is actually something that's worked out for me significantly. There's times where I can think myself doing certain things, right? But and like if I'm trying to do visualizations and whatnot. But it's funny how when I'm visualizing myself, I see myself actually getting, like, let's say I want to manifest a car. I could get in a car, do the whole thing, but I'm seeing it as if I'm watching a movie. But changing the perspective to first person rather than third person, like when you play a video game, it's a whole different experience. It's a whole different experience. It's kind of like the difference between me watching it and then putting VR goggles, and it's just because the experience is totally different, right? Another example I can give you is like if I play video games, right? I was playing this one game, Days Gone, and I remember this character was so interested in like certain things, right? But then at times I'm like, fuck, who cares? And I want to like skip through that part, right? And in the game, the character's mission is to do certain things, but I wanted to do other things. And in that instant, I had a realization. I'm like, it's kind of like this now, where my ego wants to do things, but my spirit's mission or my soul mission is different. So now I'm in controversy here. Now there's the verses here. The heaven and hell, or the good versus evil, is now actually playing in real time in action. The evil being the ego, the soul mission being the good guy, right? But I mean, it's like you'll see through things you do. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you'll have realizations. All right? I don't even know if I spoke like in detail about what I wanted to speak about, but the new year, you spring into new year, okay? And it's just like prepping for a garden, like prep your garden. You prep your garden, you get everything going, crop rotation, and start it now. Because October, November, December, this is really October now. This month is October, right? 1-0 is 1. February, second month, right? That's basically November. November is 9, November, right? And that's the 11th month. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then December, which December is, you have decades that come from that word DEC, the prefix, right? Then that means 10, but it's the 12th month, right? So play around with shit. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty interesting, pretty funny, pretty fun too at the same time. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Sorry that it's a little dark, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't have time to record something earlier. If I left anything out, I will make another video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we will talk soon.